Welcome to the Talking Content podcast. Today we've got a very special guest here, Pat Mears from Rubix Realty, who's going to join us to talk all things content in his property management business. Now, in this episode, you're going to get to hear why Pat is thinking about ditching his uniform for casual t-shirts instead, and the type of content that he's noticed is performing best for his audience right now. And it might surprise you about how easy it is to create. So without further ado, let's jump in to this episode with Pat Mears.
So I guess where it's got what piece of content brought in the most unexpected results.
Yeah.
And for me, the results were more the engagement, and it was Property Managers Day. Now I can't remember, I think it must have been last year. Although we are May, and I'm like, it could have been this year. It's been 5 months.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, I was like, oh, I really should do something. And I'd had 2 beers, was just like, we're sitting at the table. I think Meg was bathing one of the boys, and I had the other one. And I'm like, just turned the camera on and did it. And it like just went off. And I was like, it was not prepared. It was not, obviously the beer cans were out of view, and it was only two. And then I was talking to my mortgage broker about it, and she watched it 3 times. She's, I can now tell that you were drinking. I'm like, you cannot, yelling no. And like, so when I'm not in like my work shirt, I tend to get a higher engagement. I was actually looking at it this morning. And yeah, like something that's a bit more, I guess, casual, and possibly because I've got a lot of friends that follow, so they might be thinking I'm just doing something not work related. I don't know,
So
but
they're more inclined to watch it.
yeah. Yeah, oh, there's
Isn't
Pat
that
talking about real estate again. Flick.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that interesting? Backtrack a little bit
yeah.
and ask you a little bit about how you got started with creating any sort of content for your business.
So I guess it was more just sharing what I had for rent and what I had leased, like typical sort of stuff. If I was looking for new management, so when I used to tag my personal account to, I guess, increase the views. And look, so then I get them as memories now, and it'll come up that I shared something to say that I'm losing 2 managements this month. You know, we're very sad, but that means we've got opportunity for 2 more people. Or I've signed up this many this month. Or I used to, and they charge now, but the local paper, the Maitland Mercury, I used to read their articles every morning, and you could only read a certain number before you had to pay. But you'd read the subject and be like, yes, relevant or not. And there was quite a lot of development stuff happening. So I would share those posts on Facebook. And so it was relevant, but nothing like I do now. And then probably, maybe two years ago, I started listening to podcasts in the car, and or property management podcasts. And there was one about, growing your rent roll, and it was around, they just kept coming back to videos. So they'd interview property managers or BDMs, and what are your 3 top tips sort of thing, and every single person mentioned video. And I was like, okay, cool, let's get it started. And I'd rather do a quick video than be like, what am I going to write, and start typing, go, and then review and go, oh, I don't like how that sounds, or I don't, you know, it's too waffly. I need it to be a bit punchier. So I'd much rather like grab the phone and just do a video than be typing something. So
I love it. I want to go back to something you said right at the start of that. You mentioned that you were willing to share, we're losing 2 managements this month, and that's really sad. Nobody in the world says that sort of thing publicly. Talk to me about that. How did you frame that?
I think it was
And how did people respond?
just basically that I've got a client moving in, or a client who sold, so we're losing two, and basically we're looking to replace those that we've lost. I think I did do a couple of posts where I'd sacked clients and shared why I had terminated them, and said that opens opportunity for someone who is prepared to work with us and the legislation to do the right thing, sort of thing. So yeah,
Cool.
I
That's
guess
really
being the
awesome.
boss, it makes it much easier to make a decision on that. You know, you sort of, I guess your time's important and time costs money. And if you know someone, you can tell someone's just going to waste it. It's sort of like, all right, you're not worth it. Whereas if you're an employee, you've got to go to the boss and be like, oh, and then they'll be like, oh, what's happened? And they might be going, because they're not involved in that conversation or those conversations, doesn't sound that bad. I think it's just a personality clash. Just keep going. And sometimes it is a personality thing. The last place that I worked, I was only supposed to be there a short term, 9 months, and I was there nearly 3.5 years. And I worked under a property manager, and there was a landlord that was very abrupt, very rude, and she didn't like speaking to him. And I said, oh, I've got time, I'll ring. And basically realized after one phone call, he was, hello, what's wrong? What are you going to do about it? Okay, is that it? Bye. And I was like, cool, I can work with that. That's like a 2 minute phone call. And he's not arguing. He didn't want you to go, hello, how are you? How's this going? He was just like, what? Yep, get it done. Don't charge me too much. So exactly what everyone's probably thinking. But he was just like boom, boom, boom. And I made all the calls to him after that. And then when I left that job and started Rubik's, his wife contacted me. So you've looked after my husband in the other area. I've got 3 properties. Would you look after them for me? Completely different client. How are the grandkids? And how was your trip? And there's a few times where we had one of the units got flooded, and they both met me there. And basically, I walked through in 3 minutes with him, and he left and went and stood at the car, and I was there another 15 with her. But I guess that it just comes down to, you've got to decide, okay, do I need to speak to this client or communicate differently because of their personality style, or are they just someone we don't want?
Yeah. And so understanding that you are aware of different communication styles and you're able to adjust, how does that play out, especially when you're creating videos for social media?
Yeah.
How do you have someone in mind when you're creating content like that?
Yeah, depending what the content's about. So, my ideal client is an intentional investor. So they've bought or built the property for the purpose of holding it as an investment long term, realize there's going to be expenses, rents are going to go up and down. Like there's a lot more to just seeing what comes in at the end of the month. So I guess that's where I might do a topic, but it won't just be, so today we've had to do this. It's sort of like, so we've done this for these reasons, sort of stepping it out in advance. Um, if it's planned. And then look, yesterday I had an open home and I had lots of people show up. And I had someone who obviously wanted to park as close as possible and chose to park on the front lawn. And we've had a lot of rain recently. And I was just like, no, they're not. They're not. Oh my God. And I've just like gone, you can't park there. And then when they got out, I said, you've just damaged that lawn. And they just sort of looked at it. So I did a video because what you would think would be common sense. So it came across quite abrupt, but also like because of what it was about. So that one has done all right with engagement. And I guess it's not a polished video. It was quite real and in the moment. So
Yeah, I love that. And I love that generally you have an ideal client in mind when you're creating content. Um, it really does shape
yeah.
how your content is received when it's created for somebody, like somebody in particular.
Yeah, definitely. And I sort of try to focus around education because it's well, there's a lot involved in owning an investment property and managing an investment property. And with the new changes to legislation, it's just a whole lot more that everyone's got to learn. And I guess, we all just scroll aimlessly. So someone might happen to just sit there and watch 90-second, 2-minute video and go, oh, pick up one or two things. And if it's a client of mine or a prospective client, then the topic might come up just randomly. They're like, oh yeah, I saw that. And can you explain a bit more about, the different scenarios? Because there's always going to be different scenarios. We're dealing with people, we're really people managers, and this is the way you want it to end up. But you've got a property manager, you've got a landlord, you've got a tenant, three minds, but most likely three very different minds. Everyone wants the easiest result or the easiest path, but this person's path could be like this way, and that's the easiest, and someone else's could be like straight. I just want to get there. I don't want to do X, Y, Z to get there. I just want to get it done. So
Yes. Yes, it really is people management.
yeah.
It really is. So when you look back on some of the content you've created that has done well, have you ever reused any of your content or
No,
repurposed it?
but I need to. That's something I need to do because there's a lot of things that I put out that can be reused. And I guess it's more working out how frequently it needs to be reused. Is it something that should be shared every 2 months or every 3 months or annually? Something around tax time. Obviously, April, May, when people are starting to, or not necessarily thinking about it, but they should be starting to think about that side of or that aspect of owning an investment property. But other things, yeah, I've probably got video content I've used in the past that I can probably reuse again just as a reminder. So yeah, which would make my life a lot easier when it comes to content creation. So I need a library, a list of things, and just tick off that list and go, okay, in May we're going to do these ones, and in June we're going to do these ones, and just recycle because a lot of the content or the message doesn't change.
No, that's exactly right. So thinking about that one video that you did after a couple of years and that you're not in your work uniform,
Yeah,
do you ever share like personal stuff on
not
your social media?
not often, no.
Okay. Is that a sometimes though?
Sometimes. So I had appointments scheduled last, or now I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, and I had someone lined up to do these appointments for me, and they pulled out last minute. So I rang my parents who came and watched the boys for the afternoon so I could go and do those. So um, I happened to get a really nice photo. My dad got a nice photo of my mum, Nanny, with the two boys. So I shared that and said, how great are grandparents when they come to the rescue last minute for business owners when staffing doesn't go to plan. So um, I didn't actually ask Nanny's permission, but she hasn't said anything and she liked the post. So it
I
must
saw
be
the
all
post.
right. So yeah,
That's
so
so
like
cute.
occasionally, but not often. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that each person has a different line in the sand about how much, if any, personal stuff they share. And it sometimes depends on whether the account is purely a personal brand account or whether it's your company brand mostly.
Yeah.
And that can
And
influence.
I think too, given like on my own like Facebook profile, I know who's on there. Whereas on my business one, I'm pretty sure they're not all fans. So sometimes, you need to, yeah, draw that line in the sand and say this is home and this is work sort of thing. So
And did you do that deliberately? Like when you first started creating content online, did you make that decision in advance about where the line in the sand is, or has that
no,
been an organic thing?
I think it's just been organic,
Yeah. And it's just felt like
the
you have
right
a
thing.
gut feeling about whether this goes on our business profile or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
When you're thinking about social media platforms, because you're on a couple, I think you're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite platform?
Um, Probably the one that I'm on the most would be Instagram, and I really just watch stories. So I like when business accounts will share a post or a reel to their story because that thing makes me go, oh, I want to know, like, it gets cut off and it's like, oh, I want to see that. And you got to go back. And I think it's, you're busy and you scroll and it's easy to watch a story because it's time. Whereas if you're scrolling, you might scroll past them because you don't like the picture or something. Whereas um, I think, well, personally, I give a bit more time and attention to a story before I fast forward it, or it'll be at mealtime, I'll be having breakfast or lunch, and I always have it, resting on something and be eating and just watching it, and then like, no, but I have noticed that Instagram on my business account, it no longer pops up sponsored. So I'm getting accounts that I'm not following because I only want to watch the ones that I follow. Um, and if it's a sponsored, I want it to say sponsored because that's more likely I'm going to go flick onto the next one. But on my personal Instagram, it still comes up sponsored.
Have a look in the bottom left-hand corner
Okay.
because I have noticed that as
Yeah.
well. They've moved where it says sponsored
Yeah.
and
Okay. All right.
perhaps not rolled it out everywhere yet, which
That's a
is why
little deceiving, isn't it?
it feels a little bit weird because I have been the same as you. I love stories and
Yeah.
I love watching stories, and occasionally I'll have a story recently come up and I'm like, I don't think I follow this person
Yeah.
down in the bottom
And then you
left
waste
corner
time
now.
clicking in to go, no, I don't follow them. And then you get annoyed at the account where it's not their fault. But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
Instagram, and then probably Facebook's a lot more personal for me. And then LinkedIn, obviously, I engage a lot more with businesses on there. So
And so because you enjoy stories, do you create a lot of stories yourself?
yeah, I usually create a post or a reel and then share it as a story,
Yeah, cool.
as opposed to creating something specific for a story. Because a lot of the content we were discussing before, because you create something and then reuse it. A lot of what I post, I want it to stay on my Instagram or whatever, so that people can then, if they're just aimlessly scrolling and can sort of see what it's about and refer back to it. So I could probably just go through my posts on Instagram and go, oh yeah, I'll reshare this one, that sort of thing. But I've never actually been back through my Instagram posts to see what's there. So,
There's
but yeah,
probably
so
gold sitting there.
possibly,
Yeah,
possibly
yeah. So can I ask you if you could only make one type of content? I think I know your answer, but what would it be?
video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever script or is it always off the cuff?
Um, Usually I have a vague idea of what I want to say. If you see me in the car doing one, it's not scripted, but it could have been done 3 times. So if I'm meeting someone and they're running late or I'm running early, I'll go, oh, what time is it? All right, cool. And I'll do a couple of videos, 2 or 3, and then I'll schedule them out. Um, I have I have done scripted ones, but I become very rigid and very um I wouldn't even say professional. I don't know, like just very almost like nervous, but I'm not nervous. I just become like I think get into this zone. So I created a video maybe 5 or 6 months ago. So I'm in Hermione Gardner's PMBA coaching, and we had a get shit done session. And I was like, I want to do a video um, to approve tenants saying congratulations, been approved. Basically, run through what the email is going to say, but in a video format. So I put the email into ChatGPT, which gave me a script, and I got it done in that session. But it's very congratulations, you've been approved on your property. Like But I rent to a local property manager and she's like, I love your video. I'm like, oh, you taking the piss? And she's like, no, I'm serious. I'm like, oh, it is so bad. But I haven't had any feedback. So maybe people are getting a laugh out of it going, it doesn't sound that excited to have approved us, but or maybe they're not watching. So, but
Or
yeah.
maybe you're more critical of yourself than other people are.
Robot Pat Hermione calls it. So yeah.
It's like I just created an AI avatar of myself to play with video. Um, and it's like Robot Ellen in
Yeah.
that circumstance. But in your case, it's not an avatar.
No, it's me.
I love it. So we have quite a few listeners who are reluctant to get on video.
Yep.
Are you able to share any advice you have for people who are feeling nervous about not just getting on video, but perhaps they're willing to get on video, but then actually posting it?
Not really, because I just put it out there and then I follow other property managers to see what they were doing and that sort of thing. And you do see over time they become a lot more relaxed with their videos. Um, I guess it's like anything. You've just got to get started and keep doing them. And I think if there's a real purpose to the message you want to convey, then you're going to be a lot more natural with it. And at the end of the day, if you're recording, it's like when people take selfies, or you're out and someone stops you and says, "Oh, can you get a photo of me and my friends?" And you get six because it's like, I'm not getting paid for this. So boom, 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 done. Hand the phone back, and it's like, sure. If there's not one good one out of that six, that's because of the people in the photo, not because of the taker. So, but yeah, like I don't really like. I might only do two or three, and I think the reason I would do a retake would be if I stumbled over words or something. So sometimes I know in my head what I want to say, but my mouth's not keeping up with the words in my head. So, or I might do it, so I'll do it if I'm trying to like do a professional one, for education or whatever, I might do one take and I do another one just to, be double sure. And then I'll be like, oh, I really like the wording that I used that time. And then I'll do another one, but forget the wording. And then, so the most recent educational ones I did, I just set up the camera, hit record, and I had on my screen like just prompts like this is what this bit's going to be, and like maybe two or three dot points. And the camera recorded for 8 minutes, and I just went blah 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 and just kept doing the same section until I was like happy with that. What's the next one? Take a deep breath and then do the next one. And then it's more the cutting and putting it together that takes up the time. But I found that was quite good because I didn't waste time stopping and starting it. And it was not, I wasn't critiquing it at the time. And then I'd go back and watch and go, all right, so this 15 seconds is on, the next 45 seconds is the first part. And then slowly you get it down from 8 minutes to 2 minutes or something. And you've got what you think are the best, if it's a 4-part thing, you think you've got the four best you did. And yeah, so I found that worked to make me a little bit more relaxed, less robotic.
Yeah, cool. And so I want to ask you then, when you're doing editing, what software are you using for editing?
I use CapCut. So I use it on my phone. I did download the desktop version, but I found that really clunky to try and use. But people are telling me Opus Clip. I think you might have also suggested Opus Clip as well. So
Opus Clip is great for taking something like this, a long form video, and just grabbing little
what you
bits
want.
of it.
Yeah.
It's fairly terrible for
Oh,
taking the bits that you want and reordering
oh, okay.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm like you. I like the CapCut app, and
yeah.
I do have the desktop version, and sometimes I use it, but I like the app.
Yeah. Well, I might, you've got to have more than one device or one screen in front of you. So I might be sitting watching TV and I'm just going like on CapCut going, and Because you can't have one screen. That's 2019 or something. I don't even know.
Right, we're not boomers.
No, I don't even know what we are. Young.
We'll keep telling ourselves we are. Anyway, awesome. So, Pat, if we were going to end this interview with a little piece of advice for anyone who owns a business similar to yours and is feeling nervous about putting themselves out there with their content, do you have a
Yeah,
little piece of advice for us?
just do it. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just get started. And then, I think the biggest concern when you start doing content is that you're going to run out of content ideas, but it's property management. You're going to have you're going to have more content than you know what to do with. And I find if something happens, then you've got to do something straight away. And really in most cases, your surroundings, whether you're in the car, standing on a front lawn, or like you're doing it professionally sort of thing, you're prepped and ready. You've got to do it as soon as it happens, so it's fresh in your mind, and you've got those feelings or emotions that you can convey through that video. So, yeah, you'll have endless content. I tend to get into a zone where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do these videos. So I'll like create a list of what I want to do. And it just gets moved in my calendar, like down further in the day. And then, oh, I didn't get to it across to the next day. And then, whereas if you're sort of out and about doing things, I think that makes it easier. Just off the cuff, just get it done and put it out there.
And then, as you've identified, it seems that your audience really loves the real stuff.
Yeah.
So you're capturing it in the moment
Yeah.
as
So I might
well.
need to like get rid of a uniform and just become a little bit more cash.
Just wear an old t-shirt.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Or maybe I could like start, yeah, have to get something that's like a funny hat or something, or a big like bow tie, and people are like, oh, what's this bloke on about? And it's like, oh, he's still talking property management.
But he's talking it with a funny hat or a bow tie. And
Yeah,
you need a visual hook. So
yeah.
maybe that's it. Now, if people want to follow you on social media, we'll make sure to put links in the show notes. Where would you like people to come and find you?
Probably, yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So either those three. I do have a TikTok account, but I think I've only got two or three videos of that on there. But yeah, it's not really my thing, but we'll see. Early days.
All right. Thank you so much for
Oh,
coming
thanks
on.
for
And thanks
inviting
so
me.
much for sharing your experience and what's working for you. It'll be a huge help to our listeners.
Yeah. Hopefully it helps someone or a lot of people.
Thanks so much, Pat.
No worries.